METZIA Daf Yomi BAVA unsafe workplaces and gutless workers. לקדם ברועים ומקלות. There's been a lot of discussion in the last decade in the business world about toxic bosses and psychologically unsafe workplaces. And it's become a big thing. You've got to have a psychologically safe workplace, otherwise people won't say what's on their mind and they won't talk. And there's been a lot. There's an expectation that the environment is safe at work. There's an expectation that you send your kids to school and it's safe. There's an expectation you send your kids to the university and the campus is safe. And that all sounds good. It sounds normal. But let's look at it a little bit more carefully. Let's consider whether perhaps the pendulum has swung too far, and whether we're missing something. And what does our Gemara say from a brisa of 2,000 years ago, right until a psaka of the Moed Yehuda in the 18th century? Let's understand where the world is, because you see, to cleanse the world of danger doesn't create a healthy environment. A healthy environment is when you raise children who know how to navigate and avoid danger, not how to believe in a Pollyanna-ish sort of a way that there's no danger in the world, that the danger is being avoided. Chaim Lifshitz used to say, don't tell me to make my living room child-proof. You make your child living room-proof. Teach a child how to live in a living room with delicate things around. You train, you'll lose a few things in the process, but eventually the child will learn how to operate in an environment where there are delicate things around. If you're always removing anything delicate from the child grows up without any understanding of how to navigate fragility and how to deal with things that are fragile. All they care about is their own fragility. And you raise very fragile people. That's the argument. It's not my field, but you know what the argument is of the anti-vaxxers, and I'm not getting into that other than to say there are some reasonable people in that world who believe that when you vaccinate a child, you're only vaccinating them from a very specific virus. But if the child gets the illness, the body learns the capacity to be able to deal with that danger in many different forms, and that it's terribly important for adult development to have had to struggle with child illness. And the same it is with everything. We're trying to remove everything from the child's world that could possibly be dangerous. Our employees, we want to move everything that could be unsafe, and we call it, there must be psychological safety. No, you should be a psychologically mature person who can manage and avoid and navigate psychological danger. Because you know what? The world is dangerous. And life is dangerous. As far as I know, most people in the world die. That's a pretty dangerous place. The rate of people avoiding death is 0. That's a pretty dangerous place. So what are we pretending that the world's not dangerous? And what are we trying to make the world not dangerous? Now, of course, you don't pursue danger. You try and avoid, you try and navigate. But there's a difference between avoiding dangers that are there and sterilizing the world of danger, or believing that you can sterilize an environment of danger. Now, where do we see this in the Gemara? We have a shocking, to our 21st century minds, a shocking Gemara on Daf Amud Aleph, where the Gemara is talking about a ro'eh, a shepherd who left his sheep and he went into town. While he was away, a lion came, wolves came, and they cleared out the flock. The Gemara says, it's not so clear that he's free of charge. The Gemara is talking about different kinds of shomrim, people who are put into positions of guardianship, sometimes being paid to do so, sometimes not being paid to do so, shomer sachar, shomer chinam. And in this case, a shepherd is a shomer sachar, he's paid to look after the sheep, and one has to look, could he have done something? If there was nothing he could have done, then it's an onus and it's potter, but if he could have done something, you don't just say, oh, this was beyond his control. And the Gemara goes on to discuss and says, so what could he have done? The Shama Kol Aryeval, we're talking about a case where he heard a lion roaring. Now imagine our precious children being employed during the summer as shepherds, and there are lions roaring, and they run home to mommy, and mommy comforts them, and then the owner of the flock says, what do you mean? Well, why did your child not chase the lion away? I need never mind, a psychologically safe environment. Do you want my child to engage with lions? Says the Gemara, yes. Actually, yes. What should he have done? Lekadem b'ro'im u'v'maklot. Run into danger, don't run away from danger, when it's your job. If you're a soldier fighting in Gaza, you don't run away from danger. You run into danger. And that's the heroism, and that's the Mesiras Nefesh that we do for that. And some people have made the comparisons between what happened on September the 11th in New York and what happened on October the 7th in Eretz Yisrael. September the 11th in New York, you saw these images of people running away. One understands it. I'm not making judgments, just making an observation. And October the 7th, what did you see? People running to, getting involved, trying to help ordinary people, not just people who were in any official position at that time, running to do what they can. When there's something important at stake, Jews run into danger and navigate it. They don't run away from danger to escape it. Avoiding danger is different from escaping danger. Now, all this links to a Gemara that we did kind of quietly passed by in Daf Yomi BAVA, one page earlier, where the Gemara talks about this whole question that we discussed yesterday of when a person is permitted to eat the fruit that he does eat while he's working in a field. Is that something that he gets from Hashem, or is that something that is part of his contract? The second proof the Gemara wants to bring, and the Gemara comes, I won't go through the proof at the moment, but the Gemara comes and says the one side of it is, this has got nothing to do with whether it comes from God or the worker. It's got to do with what the pasuk means when it says, when you come into the vineyard of your friend in order to work in his vineyard, then you may eat grapes kenafshecha savecha. What's kenafshecha? Mar savar kenafshecha bedavar shemoser nafsho alav. The reason that you allow a worker to work, Rashi says, this is his reward for giving his life to his work, risking his life for his work. Says Rashi, bedavar she'ata moser nafshecha alav la'alot bekeves. You go up ramps, v'la'alot be'ilan, and you climb up trees. Demoser nafsho lemita. It's risky, you could die. Lots of people do jobs. Not everybody sits in front of a computer all day. There are people who go on structures and situations, and there are people who do die at work. And his moser nefesh, Dahainus Haro, this is his payment for that reward while you're sacrificing your life to do your job. The least I can do is allow you to eat, to realize what a poel is. A poel is not just somebody, a worker is not just somebody who's transacting labor for money. A worker is somebody who is risking his well-being, his health. And everybody wants work-life balance, and I need time, and I need a safe environment. Come on. Are you a gutless worker? Do you have no gut at all? Do you have no resilience? Do you have no capacity to deal with life? No, there isn't work-life balance. Moser nafsho, you get to work and do what has to be done. Your wife balances the work in the days where women were able to stay at home. Today, things are a little different and more complicated. That's part of the reason. We're all in a quest for work-life balance, because there's nobody at home doing the life stuff. Everybody's working. Raising children is life. Working is work. So if both parents are working, who's doing the life stuff? So now I want work-life balance. I also want time off. I also want paternity leave. I want to be able to go to my children's galas and races and sports events because I want work-life balance. No, where's the moser nafsho lemiso? A person, when he goes to work, I mean, if you want to be your own boss, you can do what you want. That's fine. But if you're working for somebody else, you give your everything. You give your all to your work, almost without limit, even to the point of Mesiras Nefesh to some degree. And the Gemara discusses how far does that go. That doesn't mean that literally you sacrifice your life, you die for your boss. We're not talking about that. But you certainly deal with danger. There's going to be danger involved in it. You don't expect your boss to sterilize the workplace of all danger so that you can be relaxed at work, to give you such work-life balance so that there's no Mesiras Nefesh in work. That's not a fair expectation of a workplace. And we see that further on, Daf Yud Beis, where the Gemara says there's a brayse of Elav hu nasa et nafsho, on the posuk that says you mustn't oppress a work person, you must pay him on time. Why? Because Elav hu nasa et nafsho. Mipnei ma Allah ze bekeves v'nitle be'ilanu masar et atzmo lemita. You see here in this brayse is the source of Rashi's language, the turn of phrase. Why is this person climbing up ramps and into trees and into scaffolding and risking his life? Why is he doing this? Lo ala schar, because he wants to earn a living. And he knows that he could lose his job if he doesn't do the work. There's somebody else who will be willing to do that. And there's always that concern that if I don't do it, somebody else will do it. Unless we get legislation, nobody's allowed to ask their worker to really work. But if there isn't such legislation, there's always that concern, I could be replaced. So a worker gives his life for his work. Lo al scharo, isn't he doing that for schar? He's doing that for his payment. So when you withhold his payment, even overnight, you're actually taking his life from him. You're taking his life force from him. He gave you all he had, and you're not giving him back what he expected in return for giving you all he had. He gave you his life, and all he wants is a few pennies, and you're not even paying him his pennies. He's got to wait until tomorrow before he gets his schar. That says the Gemara is not in order. That's where it all comes from. The idea of nasa et lavu nosei et nafsho. So what are some of the boundaries of this? There's a magnificent tshuva of the Noda B'Yehuda. The Noda B'Yehuda was the Rav in Prague 200 years after the Maharal. So the Maharal was in the 16th century. The Noda B'Yehuda was the Rav in Prague in the 18th century. And he wrote shailas and tshuvas that are so important. The shailas and tshuvas, the responsa, where people ask a Rav a complicated halakhic question. Usually it's rabbis, it's talmidei chachomim who ask a posek such a complicated question. And this is one such example. And the posek reasons it out. He reasons out the issues, clarifies the issues, and comes to a halakhic conclusion. That body of work that we have, these hundreds and hundreds of shailas and tshuvas, are incredibly important, not just for knowing the halakha, but also for understanding life. We see how they see life. These are practical poskim who deal with real life issues, and the shailas and tshuvas are all real life issues that extract the principles of resolving these real life issues from the Gemara. So you learn from shailas and tshuvas how to make a matmon. You learn from the shailas and tshuvas how to take a seemingly irrelevant Gemara and make it intensely relevant. It's been said among the Rishonim, I think it was said already, a shaila and tshuva, sometimes there's a stira, there's a contradiction between things that a posek might have written in a sefer on a topic or about a perek, and things that he writes in the shailas and tshuvas in responsa. And when there is a contradiction, we go like the shailas and tshuvas. And part of the reason is because there's a special siyata dishmaya. When a Rav who has responsibility for a community and for the person he's answering to gives a well-reasoned and thought-out answer, there's siyata dishmaya. He has a special guidance to be able to reach the truth in ways that you can't do when you're just thinking theoretically. There's a different siyata dishmaya when you have the responsibility of the answer and when you're just thinking in theory, an academic. And so shailas and tshuvas are not academic. The Noda B'Yehuda was not an academic. He writes, this is in Mahadura Tinyana and Yerodei Simin Yud. This is a Rav who says, I've got this question, I don't even know the person who asked me, is kind of almost apologizing for the question, but I answer everybody, that's my policy as a Rav, I answer whatever question comes to me. And for this one, I want to ask your advice. And the whole question is whether you can go hunting. He's got this very wealthy man in his community, he's got these enormous estates, and he enjoys going hunting and fishing. Can one go hunting and fishing? Amazing shayla, this is hundreds of years ago. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, we don't have to get too long in this issue, because the Maharai, that's the Trumas Hadeshin from 200 years earlier. The Trumas Hadeshin is 15th century. Also shailas and tshuvas. Your Deshin is 354, is that right? Deshin, Dalet Shin Nun. And he wrote 354 tshuvot. He writes that shekol davar sheyesh bo tzorech la'adam let be mishum tzar ba'alei chayim. If you're worried about hunting, that it's causing cruelty to animals, no, if there's a reason to do it, that's not tzar ba'alei chayim. Animals are there for our use. And it's not called cruelty to animals if you are doing it because you need something. And that's only if you leave an animal live, but if you kill the animal, that's not tzar ba'alei chayim. And therefore, don't worry about cruelty to animals, that's not an issue. Ba'al tashki, so you're destroying the world unnecessarily, you're destroying animals. He says that also not, because this is not done by way of destruction, you're going to use the skins of the animals, you're going to make some use of the animals, this is not ba'al tashki. So the two things you're worried about, he says to this rabbi, are not issues. V'hinei ad ko divareinu mitzad hadin. So far I've written about the halakha. So what else is there? I'm astonished that you even asked the question. Lo matzinu ish tzayid rach ben Nimrod ve'esav. Where in the Tanakh do we learn about hunters and fishermen? Nimrod was a hunter. Do you want to be a Nimrod? Esav was a hunter. Do you want to be an Esav? Where do you see you go hunting and fishing? This is for non-Jewish people. Jewish people don't go hunting and fishing. How ever, where do you find a Jew who kills animals for his own pleasure? The issue is the pleasure. The issue is not the killing the animals. We've already dealt with it, says the Noda B'Yehuda. There's no problem. You need to kill animals, you kill animals. You need to eat the animals, you eat the animals. You need to use the skin, you use the skin. But for your pleasure, to take out your pleasure on the life of an animal, where in the entire history of the Jewish people have we ever heard such a thing being accepted? However, if a person needs it because that's his parnosa, he earns his living from hunting, that's not cruelty. We kill animals all the time for that, for the human being. And then he goes, but I'll go even further. Not only is it disgusting that a Jew should take his pleasure out of killing animals, not only is that disgusting, but further than that, it's also asur. Now he goes back to halakha, but the isur are not the prohibitions that you thought. It's not about tzar b'lechaim and it's not about bal tashchit. But here we've got another issue because kol haoskim b'zeh tzrichim leikanes b'yarot ulachdit atzman b'sakanot gedolot b'mkom gedudei chayot. You're going into dangerous places. You're engaging with animals. It's not the right thing to do, to subject yourself to danger. Torah said, v'nishmartem od lenafshotechem. You must be careful. And then he goes on to say, but if a person is poor and has to do this for his living, HaTorah hitira kamo kol socharei yamim me'ever leyam shekol mishu letzorech michiato farnasato ein brera v'atorah amra ve'elav hu noseh et nafsho. He brings the Gemara from Daf Tzadi Beis, and it's from there that we actually see the Torah tells us that people give their lives for parnosa, and you're allowed to risk your life for parnosa. That's what parnosa is. Etc. But if your intention is not to earn a living, and you're just doing it for fun, and taking risks, look how different this is from our current environment. Currently, people risk their lives for sport. They'll climb up Mount Everest, they'll hang glide, they'll skydive. What about a safe environment? Where's the emotional safety? No, that's fine. But when I come to work, man, it's got to be nice and easy. It's got to be safe. It's got to be secure. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, the opposite is the case. When you're doing it for sport, you have to be safe. When you're doing it for sport, you're not allowed to take risk because there's no siyata dishmaya. Hashem doesn't protect you when you're taking risk unnecessarily. But when you're doing it for work, and you have to do it for work, that we see that you're allowed to do. The halakha gives you that permission, and this special siyata dishmaya, Hashem helps, Hashem supports, Hashem protects. It's not your boss's job to make it safe for you. Of course, nobody should do something that's unsafe. Nobody should bully people at work. Nobody should victimize people at work. Of course. But to expect the workplace to be free of bullies, to expect the workplace to be free of bad people, egoistic people, power-hungry people, it's the workplace, it's the real world, it's going to be there. Man up, develop some guts. Become a person who's able to navigate hardship, not one who just wants to escape hardship at all costs. And learn how to do so and strengthen yourself. That idea of anti-fragility that we've talked about. Become stronger through grappling with challenge. Don't avoid challenge at all costs, the way we're raising our children to do. There's a Rabbeinu Bechaya that I bring at the end that talks about an avodah kvedah, an avodah shel bizayon. You can't give your worker heavy work and disgraceful work. And what is that, says Rabbeinu Bechaya? Work for which he's not trained. If you give a person work for which he's untrained, that you're not allowed to do. But if you're giving him work for which he's trained, even if that work entails risk, he's trained how to navigate that risk, and he's allowed to navigate that risk. That's work, that's what we do. Just as in business there's no reward without risk, so here there's no reward without risk. It's important to appreciate that when we talk about reward in the Torah for mitzvahs, we talk about schar. Schar means payment. Schar means salary. So we've got to understand that when Hashem gives us, just as we give this worker the right to eat the fruit in the orchard while he's working, the reward Hashem gives us is it's our payment. He takes care of us while we're engaged in doing what we need to do in the avodah. And in doing what we need to do, there are times when it is risky. There are times when we can't just lie in bed. We need to get up in the morning and go to shul. There are times when we can't just eat whatever we want, and there's nothing to eat, nothing kosher, so you go without eating. You find something else to eat. There are times where we have to deal with challenge. That's what it is to live. It's not just being Jewish. That is life. Life is risky. Work is risky. You can't choose risk as sport, but to manage and navigate risk as part of life, that is part of life, and we're expected to do so.